Congressman, great to see you.
Great to be with you, John. Thank you.
Wanted to get your reaction to Amy Coney Barrett there. She got this appeal because of the geography of where it's taken place, Indiana University here, and she could have brought it to the full Supreme Court, but she didn't do that. Why do you think she chose to go this route?
I don't know, John, but I'm concerned that, and have been for quite some time, that going back to their confirmation hearing, hers, Kavanaugh's, Gorsuch to a lesser extent, that intimidation, just the most horrendous tactics by the Democratic Party, they have been successful. The intimidation, the threats, just horrific threats to their families and whatnot, it has to cause tremendous trauma to a family. And that was my concern, that, they may feel like they need to get their breath before they start taking tough stands. The problem is we've seen in the past that some judges never get around to taking those tough stands. Not everybody has the backbone and the intellect of Clarence Thomas, unfortunately. So, and Justice Alito. So anyway, I'm concerned.
By process of elimination, Congressman Gohmert, I think I know where you're going with this. Are you talking specifically about John Roberts?
Oh, yeah. Well, John Roberts, that's a different case. He wasn't so much intimidated and had threats like the Trump appointees, but he was seeking to hit the threat.
It's a different subject too. We'll leave it there. But I just want to go back.
Yeah.
You were saying that you believe partially the reason why Amy Coney Barrett made this decision because of the intense scrutiny she faced during the confirmation process.
Well, more than it was trauma to her and her family. They had death threats. They had all kinds of threats. And yeah, I think that intimidation does have carryover after confirmation.
Well, we do still see that kind of heavy-handed approach from so many when it comes to vaccine mandates and to mask mandates. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes to mind, who said, screw your freedom. But let's talk about immigration right now and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and his visit to the Texas border yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
At the very outset, I want to communicate very clearly that the situation at the border is one of the toughest challenges we face. It is complicated, changing, and involves vulnerable people at a time of a global pandemic.
What's your level of confidence right now? I mean, he's down there. He at least is there. We still haven't seen a lot of Kamala Harris on the border. There seems to be some acknowledgement this week of how big of a problem this is for the administration, but no real solutions on the table right now. Not that I don't think any that you're seeing. Are there?
Oh, well, yes, of course there.
Well, from this administration, I should be clear.
Yeah, the Trump administration had the border under control, getting more and more successful in securing the border. So it wasn't that complicated when the Biden administration came in. Just keep going with the current policies, much as they did with the pandemic. They were beneficiaries of the vaccines, the 3 vaccines, and they were beneficiaries of a more and more secure border. So all they had to do is just leave things alone and let the border continue to be enforced. But they couldn't do that. They complicated things. They are causing people to die by the masses that are coming in. Estimates as low as 6%, but as high as 20+% have COVID coming in. And they're not coming in with masks. They're spreading it among other illegal immigrants. And this administration is saying, oh, it's complicated. We don't know. So we'll just keep sending thousands of people around the country. We won't tell people where they're going. We won't let them protect themselves. We're going to send them around the country so that COVID is spread and people don't see the numbers of illegal immigrants at the borders because we're whisking them away. John, it's an outrage.
There should be more outrage. Obviously, the Biden administration would rather talk about other things besides immigration here. They'd rather talk about the Democrats' push for voting rights, which they claim have been stripped away from them from the Texas laws and the Georgia law and the Florida law and other stuff like that. But the Texas Senate yesterday did pass the GOP-backed voting bill. Still waiting on Texas House Democrats to show up. They have now been issued those warrants. But again, I think the effort from Texas Democrats and from national Democrats to highlight their push for voting rights has definitely been overshadowed by the immigration issue. And, the Texas Democrats just look silly. After all said and done, they were away. Now they're back. Some of them caught COVID. Some of them went overseas on vacations. Where does this end up?
Well, it'll end up with Texas passing. It's not a negative effect on voting rights of people that are alive or only want to vote once. It's only affecting the voting rights of those who are dead and of those who want to vote multiple times and of those who want to fill out ballots and pull them out from under tables and scan them after nobody is around to see the cheating other than the camera. So it's not affecting legal voting rights at all. It is making sure that legal voters' votes are not disenfranchised. And so, yeah, you're right, John. They're looking silly. But in the end, the votes will be there to end up passing voting reform, voting security, so that we quit disenfranchising so many people that are voting legally.
They can run, but they can't hide. And just to be clear, the Texas voting laws affect you the same way they affect those Democrats. It's the same laws, right? Same. Yeah. You have to apply by the same rules. They do. And these folks ran for this office. They wanted the job, and now they want to be in D.C. Well, they need to run for Congress to do that. Yeah, well, that's usually how it works. You got to run for national office if you're going to work in Washington, D.C. Texas Democrats, and it's only 4 months every 2 years that they are there. So, not too much to ask for them to show up and do their job, is it, Congressman? No, in fact, it'd probably be a good thing to do Congress like that, just 4 or 5 months every other year. Yeah, that would have been a great thing too, with the Trump administration trying to get a lot of the bureaucracy outside of Washington, D.C. What could have been. We'll have to wait and see, maybe in a couple of years. Congressman Louie Gohmert, great to see you as always. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. All right, coming up, the Taliban.